Taking my CRV through the dirt. It's all-wheel drive so I won't get hurt. Yeah. Oh yeah. So welcome back to the CRV, and this is part 2 of getting it back on the road. I ordered a timing kit for this thing from Aisin on eBay, and I had been waiting for it to arrive. Well, it was about 50 miles from my house for 4 days. And when it got here, I'm like, yay, it's finally arrived, right? It's 2 days late, but that's all right. Better late than never. Well, it turns out it was to be never, because when I opened the package, this is not, a RD1 CRV timing belt, water pump, and tensioner. This is just a fan clutch. I do not need a fan clutch. So I contacted them and said, hey, not only were you guys 2 days late, but it's the wrong part entirely. And not only is it the wrong part, it's really the wrong part. This has nothing to do with the Honda CRV. So they said, okay, well, send us proof. And I did. And they said, okay, well, we're going to send you a shipping label, which will probably also be 2 days late. And when we get it back, we will send you the right parts, or you can have a refund. And I said, well, I'm not waiting another 2 weeks for this. So just give me a refund, please. And they said, okay, great. So now I just have this until it, comes in and I can ship that back. So we'll just set this over here for now. So what we do have is a Honda timing belt right there. It says Honda. You see that? See that right there? Honda water pump. And the tensioner doesn't say Honda on it, but you're just gonna have to take my word on that it's a OEM tensioner. So I have all the parts. I have coolant, I have my tools, I have my valve cover gasket. Actually, let's see. It is cold out here, so I'm in my hoodie and my sweatpants, and I hope you don't mind. Yeah, buddy. Boom. Genuine parts made in Japan. So, yeah. So, OEM valve cover gasket and the grommets and the spark plug tube seals along with the timing set. So, I know that after we get it back in time, the last video, I got it to run. All that stuff confirmed it actually ran. So, I have to take all that back off and then put the new timing kit in it, and then probably run into town and grab some feeler gauges so that we can adjust the valves. So let's do it. Yep, this thing's gonna have to get pressure washed. That's all right. finally do away with this. Throw this in the freaking trash. In the last video, I kind of showed you what you need to do. So what I'm going to do on this one is basically just speed run through this. So I have to yank the crank pulley back off, pull the tensioner back off, pull the water pump, drain the coolant, and pull the belt, and then lock the cams and repeat the process over. So since I did that in the last video, I'm not going to go through the same process. So if you're wanting to see actually how to put this in time, go to the previous video, to the part 1, and I explain that a little bit better. How, you know, the caps, you've got holes in the cams that'll hold it to the caps, hold it to TDC, line up the crank, pull it off, you know, the whole shebang. Loosen the 14 in the tensioner, push it down, lock it down to keep it untensioned, and then take the belt off, put the belt back on. I'm pretty sure I had the procedure wrong in part 1 though. So it's, I think it's exhaust cam, intake cam, pump, tensioner, crank. I think. Unless this was just giving me such a nightmarish headache that I had it right the first time, but I had to install it wrong to actually get it installed. So either way, I'm going to take this back off and then get the coolant drained. And I'll show you what it looks like after I have it installed. I knew I wasn't crazy, man. I knew it. You go from the untensioned side first. And this is what I had trouble with last time. I don't know what that belt was for. I don't know what that pump tensioner were for. I have no clue. But this is why OEM parts matter in these instances. So I just put this belt on, the pump and the tensioner, with reused the old spring, so it's not like the spring was any different. I looked at the tensioner didn't really look much different either. Pulled the belts to each other, there may have been a hair of a difference. So, putting this belt on, I went tension side first like I had to do with the last belt. I could not get it to line up correctly going from the crank to the exhaust cam over to the intake cam, water pump, tensioner, crank, right? I couldn't do that with the last belt. For some reason, that tensioner just would not let me go over it. So the way I had to do it was go the opposite way. And if it's not correct, it's not going to last, right? So this belt, whenever you lock the cams, if you have a little bit of slack, they roll into each other. So if you have a little bit of play in your whatever you're using, in this case I'm using Allen wrenches. So through the cam caps into the cams to hold them in place, but they're not perfect. You know, they're not the exact size of the hole, so the cams roll in a little bit. Well, going from the crank up to the exhaust cam, you know, they're both rolled in, so you have play to roll out on each one of them. You don't have enough belt. It's kind of hard to explain, but anyway, so going from the crank to the exhaust cam, you can roll it back, it catches into the belt, go over that cam, go to the intake cam, roll it back, they both line back up, it sits in the spot, and then you have slack around the water pump and the tensioner. And this is exactly what I was talking about in part 1. Exactly what I was talking about. It's super crucial. If you don't get this right, you need it. This is why it's also crucial. Like, you know, if you second guess yourself, and you're like, it may have been a while since I've done this, but I just don't remember having this much problem. It's probably because of aftermarket parts, they don't work well in this sort of instance. If You're going with aftermarket brakes, sure. I know that that's a safety concern. You know, a timing belt's not exactly safety. It is for the engine, but not for your safety. Aftermarket brakes, sure, they might not stop as well, you know, something like that. It's kind of hard to not install brakes correctly. Either they fit or they don't, right? In this case, you can get it to work, but it's not right. It's not exactly what needs to be on it. So just stick to OEM stuff. This stuff is expensive, and I get it. You know, not everybody can do this. But if it's too expensive, then hold off and save a little bit of your money and then buy it when you can, because this is just, I cannot express this enough. It is so crucial, and it saves you so much time and headache. Like, you know, in every aspect of my life, time is 100% money. So not having to fight with this over and over and over, and then potentially giving this to somebody, which, you know, my buddy Mason is coming to get it. You'll see how that unfolds later, but in this case, Mason's coming to get it. Why would I hand it to him and be like, in the back of my mind, I don't know if that was really right. It didn't seem right. Maybe it's just because I'm not remembering the process. And then here it is, I put OEM parts on it, and it just goes on there smooth as butter. It's very, very crucial, and it will save you a lot of headaches. So, you know, I know that you probably skipped through that rant anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this tensioner is supposed to properly work. Because in the last one, it was literally, the belt had it wedged all the way to the oil pump, and I'm convinced that there was at least one rib out of that belt that was missing. Like maybe this one has one more rib in it, and that can make all the difference. So I'm going to hopefully get you down in here, and I'm going to pop that 14 loose. I have everything installed with the least amount of slack over here on the exhaust cam. All the slack is on the tensioner side. So intake cam, water pump, tensioner, crank, all of that has a little bit of slack. So I'm going to show you what it's supposed to do when everything works correctly. All right. So see how much slack is right there. This side, very, very minimal slack. Okay. Now, rule of thumb is if you can take the belt and then you can twist it all the way. You can twist it like a half turn. You can turn it sideways, and it's all right. That's acceptable slack. And then you've also got slack here, which I'm also going to show you how to take that out. So much easier with OEM parts, man. Like, I just can't express this enough. So hopefully you can see that tensioner down there, and I hope my camera stays here. So the tensioner is right here, right? This is this 14. That's the water pump. So watch what happens. Okay. All right. You may not have been able to actually see it move, but some of the slack came out of this belt, and then I'm going to turn the camshaft and pull a little bit more slack out, and that tensioner should move out just a little bit. Yep, and that's it. See how a little bit slack gone? Your marks are lined up. Not near as much slack there or here. Perfect. Now that all the slack's out, all that good stuff, and your tensioner has been loose, you know, pulls the tension in. If this is still pretty bowed up, rotate one of them, which it should technically be this one. Rotate this one a little bit, pull some of that slack out of here, and then tighten your 14 back down, and you're good. So everything's locked in, everything's tight. Look at the gap we have in between the tensioner and the oil pump. That was not there before. Right there to right there. The old tensioner was literally touching the 10mm bolt on the top of the oil pump. And it should not be like that. It should be just like this right here. And I'm so glad that I stuck to my intuition, because it paid off big time. So something very, very crucial on these RD1 CRVs, which normally, I guess, what is RD1? It's 97, I think, to 01. First generation CRV with the B series. It is very, very crucial that you keep an eye on the valve adjustment on these. So I'm on top dead center. I just got done timing it, you know. You can reach in here, and whenever you're on top dead center, or you're on the basically combustion stroke of your cylinder, all the valves should be closed, which means there should be no cam lobe, you know, pressing on the spring, pressing the valve in the cylinder. There should be none of that. So at TDC, I cannot move these intake rockers. So they are way, way, way too tight. The crucial part is these will tighten up over time, and they'll press up against the cam to the point where even when the cam is actually not on the lobe side, it is always pressing down on the spring. That means it's keeping it in the cylinder. The cylinder, you know, the combustion is happening, and before you know it, you have a dead misfire on a cylinder and a blinking check engine light. And what has happened is it's burned a hole in one of the valves, and it's super, super common on these. So, you know, these would go 200,000 miles, and even you wouldn't hear the valve train noise because it's tightening up. So it doesn't have that slack of a, you know, a clack as it rotates and it hits the rocker arm. It's just always on the cam lobe. So these would just tighten up over time, and then, you know, 200,000 miles later with no valve adjustment, it's blowing a hole in a valve. So before that happens to this one, and while we have it all, you know, we're basically making sure this is ready to go to its next owner, we need to adjust these valves. And on the intake side, like especially on Hondas, your intake is always a tighter tolerance than your exhaust, right? I'll put it up here. I'll put a little picture up there so you can see it, because I don't know thousandths and hundredths and tenths and all that crap, because I'm, you know, the metric system. It's just easier. So I have both of my feeler gauges here, and I'm going to bring you in here while we're doing it so that I can show you. But firing order is you always rotate this. These are counterclockwise or clockwise? I don't remember. I'll have to look that up. But you rotate this engine by firing order. That's how you move to which ones you're adjusting. So firing order is 1, it's top dead center, you get everything in time. Cylinder 1, cylinder 3, 4, and then 2. So 1, 3, 4, 2. That's how these fire. So I think that's pretty much every Honda 4-cylinder, 1, 3, 4, 2. You want to do this dead cold. You do not want any heat in this motor. At least I think it's preferred that you're below 120 degrees off of ECT sensor. But it's just good practice to let them sit overnight, then rip the valve cover off, do your your valve adjustment, and then roll from there. So this is going to be pretty hard to show you, since this is something that you're going to have to do at least once probably to really get it. But if you can see, these cam lobes are like this. So your high point of your cam lobes are off of the rockers. So I'm going to take my exhaust feeler gauge, and I cannot put it in between the cam and the rocker. So we'll do this one. Nope, still nothing. So let's do intake. But the other one, nope. Nope. So since it's already TDC, I'm going to undo these 12mm nuts. You take a flathead and you rotate it until you can just a little bit of drag, and then you tighten them back up. And then just check all of them before you rotate the motor and move on, and you should be golden. Okay. And of course they are just ridiculously tight. All right, that's good. So you just back that on up. Back that old girl on up. I mean, dude, these were just outrageously tight. Wow. That's why I was having such a hard time to start. Just wasn't getting any freaking air, dude. Jeez. So what you want is just a little bit of drag, man. You want to go in between the rocker and the cam. So that right there. You've got your rocker right here. Come on, focus, man. There we go. You got your rocker right here, your feeler gauge, your camshaft. You want to be able to go in between that. A little bit of drag. There's a little flathead right here on the top. Tighten that down. While you're holding that flathead, tighten the 12 down. And then you're good. A little bit. Tighten this up just a hair more. Just want a little bit of drag. I can't believe how freaking tight these things were, man. I mean, I guess I can, but good gracious. The other thing that kind of sucks is that these wobble a lot. So while you're putting your feeler gauge in there, it's going to be a little bit difficult to determine just how much drag you really have. Which that right there, yeah. Whenever you're in TDC, that right there is what you need. Not that. Not this. Not this. You want to be able to completely be off of this cam loop. Otherwise, it's literally just compressing the freaking valve in. So, what I'm trying to do is not say that, you know, anyone did this or whatever. The engine quite literally does it to itself. What I'm trying to say is I'm trying to help you keep your engine together and keep it going. And this right here is a relatively easy job if you don't overcomplicate it. It's really not that bad. It's kind of time consuming, but it will potentially save you a lot of money and a lot of, you know, misdiagnosis. Because if, you know, oh, a blinking check engine light, and you take it to somebody who's not really familiar with these, take it to a mom and pop shop. Oh, well, your plugs and your wires, we'll start with that. So they do that. Oh, well, we'll put a cap and rotor on it. So they do that. Oh, well, you know, maybe it needs an ignition coil, so they do that. Oh, well, maybe it needs an injector, so they do that. It's just, will save you a lot of headache. If you take the time, or you take it to somebody who is familiar with these, and say, hey man, I got this car. I don't know if this thing's ever had a valve adjustment, but it runs great. Good. That's a perfect time to do it. Check it. Peace of mind. Be done. Save yourself thousands of dollars. So, voila. You're welcome.
And I'm just going to add constant pressure to it and back this out until I can put it in there. That right there. All the way out. A little bit. Perfect. Leave that in there. I don't think that we will have near as much issue getting this thing to start this time. Yep. Perfect. And then I will show you whenever we roll this over and then it compresses this, this won't move anymore. So if you're completely off of the dang thing with the cam lobe and this thing still doesn't move, it's not freaking good, man. I know I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I'm just really trying to beat this into you. Really drive this home at how much money this can save you and how much headache. And this is something that anyone can do in a matter of hours. You don't need any special tools. A parts store sells a 10mm, which is what you need for the top timing cover and the valve cover. They're all 10s. Then you need a 19 for the crankshaft, a couple of feeler gauges, 12mm, and a flathead. So, super, super, super easy. Super simple. There we go. Boom. It's crazy how tight those things were. So now, number one is done. Let's take the 12 off. We'll put the 19 back on. We will rotate the motor. The old motor guy over here. I'm pretty sure it is this way. All right. There we go. Hey, boom. That's a good sign. These are all a lot more loose than cylinder 1 was, which is good. Oh no. Come on out a little bit. So just like that. So both up marks right there and right there, they're pointing toward the front of the vehicle. And then your little timing dashes, like right there and right there, are pointing up. And then a good indicator that you have it right is just that your cam lobes on cylinder 3 are off the rockers. It's very, very, very simple. So let me show you. Cylinder 4, right here. That one's not too bad. The other 3 are pretty tight. So now you're gonna have both your timing marks pointed back toward each other again, and your up spokes pointed downward for cylinder 4. So remember, cylinder 1, they were pointing up. Cylinder 3, they were pointing toward the front of the car. 4 pointing down, and cylinder 2 toward the firewall. And then you do cylinder 2. After you do that, you rotate it one more 45 degrees, and you should be back at cylinder number 1 TDC. And that will also help you check and make sure that your crank pulley and your cams line back up. And if they do, and you know everything's still in time, put everything back together and run. gotta get the blue stuff, man. Honda Genuine. It's what it wants, you know? It's exactly what it wants. If the car could talk, it'd tell you. I'm so ready to hear this thing start up and idle and run good. I'm excited. I've got the battery hooked back up, so after we put this stuff in here, it's all over. We can start it. See what's up. So there she is. It's always good practice to do some last minute checks, make sure all your bolts are in, all your pulleys are lined up. You have removed your socket from the crankshaft pulley. Alright, here we go. Let's see if it takes as long as it did this last time to start up. Right up, man. Boom. Just like that. Hey, there we go. Nice. Now I can see what works and what doesn't. That's good. No check engine light yet. Unfortunately, these belts are probably going to squeak, but this kind of is what it is right now. They're kind of old, and the alternator belt is a little bit loose. So now just to let her run, I'm gonna let this burn off some stuff. I'm gonna go in and get me a drink, get me old Fate, kiss the old woman, and then I'll be back on out here. Oh. Do the reverse lights work? Well, I guess I could ask you. Do they work? They do? Turn signals work? Cool. Do my brake lights work? Yep. It runs good. A little bit of smoke because whenever I ran the valve cover without any of the grommets or the gasket, it leaked down in the spark plug hole, and I forgot. And then whenever I started it up, I was like, wait, there's a little bit of oil in there, so it's going to seep down and then get burnt out. So it also hasn't ran like this, you know, a full heating cycle in well over 2 years, I think. I would wait until this is buttoned up and I have the cap on it, and there's the fans right there. I would wait until it's all buttoned up and then take you guys for a drive, but I think that's gonna have to wait, and I'm just gonna have to close it off here. It's getting late. Fans kick back off. That's a good sign. AC works on this thing. The heat works. All the windows work. Power door locks work. I haven't checked the key fob. Power steering works. Dude, it runs great. A little bit of valve train noise, but that will decrease over time because they're a little bit, I like to leave them a little bit more loose, so that way you have a lot of time before you have to do it again, you know, because they're just going to tighten back up again eventually. So a little bit of valve train noise, but it's a Honda, doesn't matter. Basically, you know, it's a lawnmower, right? So that's gonna do it for this video, man. We got the timing set on, got the valve cover gasket on, got it full of coolant. I'm gonna take it to work, and I'm going to change the oil. I'm gonna change the trans, the front diff, and the rear diff. Make sure there's no brake warpage. You know, that can be fixed by simple just turning the rotors. I would really like to give this to Mason and Veronica as in good a shape as I possibly can. Mason and I worked out a deal, I'm coming out a little bit on top on this thing, and you will see, because I'm going to do a whole video on it, cleaning it up, and unfortunately it's going to have to leave as well, but it's going to be a nice kind of a flip video, you know. So I just want this to be as nice and as ready to go as possible. They can immediately get in this thing and take it to work, take it wherever they want. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you did, you know, consider liking the video, subscribing, doing all that crap that every time I telling you that. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys next time, maybe, you know, before a month from now. I don't know. The other car, which this was going to go away for parts for the Jeep and the Camaro, so now the other car that he's bringing me for this is probably going to go away, and then we're really going to start hammering on the Jeep again after we get back from Vegas and all that other stuff. It's just, you know, life gets in the way, man. Full-time job. This is basically another full-time job. It takes up so much time. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.
What? The freaking keyless works, dude. That is sick.